Hi, Narine, how are you?
Hi, Tanya. I'm doing good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be able to do this with you and have a conversation about Armenian culture, especially this week.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very excited as well to talk.
Anything that has to do with culture and learning and growing is so important to me, and I think for all of us. And so, this is definitely a passion project I know for you, and for me as well. So, thank you. Thank you. Um, you know, in education, there's such an emphasis on you know uh, ethnic studies and taking a look at racial and cultural differences, and so I think it's important for us. And you and I know why it's important to study Armenian culture, but share with us a little bit. Why is it important?
Well, one of the most important reasons is since Los Angeles Unified School District is one of the largest districts that serves the most Armenian students, I think it's very important for us as educators to learn and know about the cultures of the students that we serve, and not only the Armenian students, but in general. I think we can make better connections with our kids when we know things about them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, even in classes and schools and communities where we don't have Armenian students, I think it's important to discuss it because, our communities, Los Angeles is such a diverse area. And as students grow, as adults interact in society, in business, in relationships, we end up really dealing with a diverse population. And what a beautiful way to respect, to love, to grow is to learn about the different cultures. So I definitely see a lot of value in learning about Armenian culture and other cultures as we move throughout our lives. So tell us a little bit about the resources that exist in not only in LAUSD but online and for teachers to use.
All right, definitely. So first, I would like to give some overview, and one of them is the resources, and I'm going to talk about the primary and secondary resources. And to start with that, I would share the some of the books. These are for elementary primary grades. One of them is Barev. The title of the book is called Barev, and the author is Narine Minasian. It is about the adventures of Andre and Noemi, and this little boy and the girl are talking about um, how the in their neighborhood people are coming from different backgrounds and different cultures, and they're learning words and things from each culture and sharing it with their neighbors. And one of the words that they learn in Armenian is barev, which means hi, hello in Armenian. And this is a very beautiful book, teaching as a reflection of a multicultural Los Angeles and how we can all come from different backgrounds and still um, live as a big family in one neighborhood.
I think that's adorable and that's great. And it says elementary K-5. When you look at little stories like this, I can imagine it also being used at a possible middle and high school as a story, maybe in like a community circle, just
Uh-huh.
to grow on the topic, on the theme of compassion and empathy. And what do you think about Andre? And what do you think about Noemi and other characters possibly in the book? Um, it can definitely be a tool used across the grades.
Uh-huh. Absolutely, I agree with you. Another great book, Under the Light of the Moon by Laura Gaburian. This one is also a great book that can be used in elementary school. It's a story of hope and survival, and it's based on the real experiences of the orphans of the Armenian genocide. I forgot to mention that the author of the book Barev, Narine Minasian, I know that she is a school presenter. She also does school visits and book reading. So if teachers are interested, they can invite her. And I know that at this age, at elementary school, students learn a lot through reading. So that's an excellent opportunity.
Beautiful gift. And that's within LAUSD, right, Naine? Wow, that's amazing.
Some other resources about secondary, I would recommend The Road from Home, written by David Kirdian. This is, again, another story of how courage and hope can lead to survival. And the author is talking about his mother. The book is about the author's mother who survived the Armenian genocide.
It's definitely a book that can be used in literature, discussing overarching themes and character. That's great.
Yes. A film that I would recommend, The Promise, which was released not too long, a few years ago, I think in 2017. It's a historical drama film set during the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. And this is, again, another way that teachers can use as an educational tool to teach about the Armenian genocide.
And also discuss the fall of totalitarian governments in world history. And it's got Christian Bale, and I am in.
One of my favorite actors as well. And it can be found on Netflix.
That's definitely easy enough.
Yes. Some of the websites that I would like to mention, anca.org or anca.org, the Armenian National Committee of Armenia. Under the issues, when you click on Armenian genocide and then click on education, you will be able to find many teaching resources, teaching guides, websites, videos, books, documentaries, and not only about the Armenian genocide, but the genocide education projects also talks about the genocide in Rwanda and war crimes happening through, in different places of the world.
So skills like compare and contrast can be used.
Yes, a lot of lesson plans that teachers, and these lesson plans are created by educators for different grade levels.
That's great.
In addition to lesson plans, at the website, they can also find the Genocide Education YouTube channel. This is more interactive, or the Armenian Genocide Museum Institute or Genocide Watch. These are some additional resources that can also be beneficial.
Especially if students want to delve deeper and also still being in the hybrid model. What a great resource.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So tell me, I would love to know, is there more resources?
Yes, so this is another one, eyewitness.usc.edu. USC Shoah Foundation has also created an archive bank of various topics, I would say clips, activities, resources, guidelines for teaching with testimony, compare and contrast topics, compare and contrast sources, and many resources that this is a huge source of resource, and depending on which area your interest is in, you can definitely get a lot from here. Eyewitness Armenian Genocide Education Program is also part of the USC Shoah Foundation. So definitely this is something that can be very beneficial when you decide, decide how I want to start teaching about this.
And I believe Eyewitness also has other areas, other topics that they delve into. This is a really great resource.
Right.
When we talk about, Armenia and introducing children to not only what happened with the genocide, which is an important topic, but I think it's also important to talk about culture and really be able to, make it fun and, discuss different areas. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, thank you. So I would like here to mention that two very amazing Armenian educators from LDNE created this slide talking about the Armenian culture. And when I saw it, I immediately decided to share it in our restorative practices Schoology book, because this is a place where you can learn a lot about the Armenian culture, and everything on this slide is clickable. The flag, the rock, everything. So when you click on it, you will learn something new about the Armenian culture. So as I said, I shared it.
Families to share as well, even like parents to go over with their children and really, build a sense of pride.
So yes, thank you to Ms. Vaganian and Ms. Kamburian for creating this and sharing it with us.
Wow, definitely a passion project. That's beautiful. That's really great. As we delve into, what are expectations and, why should we or where do we find this stuff? Tell us about what is found with state standards.
Yes, so in terms of state standards, I would say that this is in the 10th grade California History Social Science Framework. This is not something new. It was already there, and it talks about the collapse of the Ottoman Empire starting from 1915, and then about the Armenian genocide, how Armenians were deported, were actually not deported. It was a death march into the Syrian desert. And so, yes, this unit completely talks about the genocide.
I think what's important, I know that there's a lot of different places where children can go when it comes to this topic of World War One. If you go to the next slide, I know that there's some questions that teachers can use to guide and give students choice, right? So during this era of time, there was a lot of different reasons why collapsing of governments were happening and empires. There was economic strife, which was given the rationale behind trying to eliminate, doing ethnic cleanses. And we've seen this throughout history. And so doing comparative studies, creating projects around different topics, like looking at basic human rights and the construction of constitutions, taking a look at the development of organizations like the United Nations to protect against this repeating itself. And what do atrocities look like across the world so we don't sit in ignorance of what's going on. We see genocide or ethnic cleansing in Kosovo with the Sunnis, with Myanmar, in Rwanda, throughout history, let alone what happened during World War II with the Nazis, right? But I think that it's so important to not just focus on one, but really take a look at the comparative rationale. What happens in those areas that lead to it? And even talking about generational trauma, which I think is important, even in US history, when we look at the Black community and the generational trauma that's experienced, and also the Asian community with, immigration coming from the Nanjing, massacre in China. And so all of these topics can be discussed alongside Armenian genocide and other topics in World War history. I feel passionate about this. I know you and I have discussed this at length, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation, because I've had the opportunity to give students choice to delve into Armenian genocide, to delve into the Nanjing massacre and the relationship between Japan and China, aside from what was happening in Nazi Germany, which we repeatedly study.
Absolutely. And you brought up a very good point that the key, our end goal here is to educate, so that we like to say history repeats itself, but in this case, we don't want these kind of things to be repeated. We want to spread the awareness and educate our children so that they understand this is something that needs to stop. Any crime against humanity, doesn't matter if it happened in Armenia or another part of the world, these are crimes against humanity that need to stop happening.
Absolutely. And to speak up, right? To advocate, because there is this lull, this shock that people go into. And, how do people get sucked into, the rhetoric, the populism, right? So what happens in LA? I know we've got the anniversary on this weekend. Tell us a little bit about what goes on in Los Angeles.
Yes, so April 24th is the Armenian Genocide Commemoration Day, which is approaching. And usually on this day, Armenians living in the community, in the diaspora, especially living in Los Angeles in this case, they visit to the Montebello Genocide Memorial to put some flowers and lit some candles. They also go to participate in the March for Justice, which takes place on April 24th every year. On downtown LA on Wilshire Boulevard, right in front of the Turkish embassy. Because unfortunately, until now, Turkey doesn't recognize the Armenian genocide. And this march is one way of, you know, again, demanding justice.
Yeah, I'm really grateful that our mayor has Garcetti has really taken a strong stance and has been vocal about recognizing the Armenian genocide, and which is why we have it, infused in our state standards. Which is why we're taking steps to also recognize it within LAUSC. Correct?
Yes. So that was on that note. Yes, last year on October 6th, the Board of Education unanimously voted to add a new holiday to future calendars to commemorate Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day on April 24th. So that day, starting from the next school year, it will be a day off, and more people will be able to visit the monument, the memorial, or be part of the March for Justice.
And
And more voices will be heard, hopefully.
yeah, and it's so important for the community to know the significance of this as we walk around in our communities and drive around. We see more flags, we see more Armenian presence throughout Los Angeles, throughout the valley, throughout local district Northeast. And we need to understand, and we need to be able to have compassion and empathy and realize, wow, this is why they're coming out. This is why children are learning to advocate for themselves, for their grandparents, for their great grandparents who went through the genocide. We still have people that have heard firsthand stories of what had occurred. And so what a powerful statement to send to the world, and also for us to understand our neighbors, our friends,
Yeah,
and what they've gone through.
absolutely. I would also like to mention on this page, you can see the purple flower on the top right corner. It's called Forget Me Not flower, and it was chosen as a symbol saying that this hasn't been forgotten, and we will keep demanding justice until it is being recognized. And in my background, you can see the genocide memorial that is in Armenia. That's where people visit on April 24th.
And so, now that we've been able to discuss a lot of the culture and the history, what is the legacy of the Armenian community in the world?
Sure. Um, so I would say that after the before genocide and but mostly after the genocide, what is noticeable that there was kind of a rebirth of new genius people who were born and invented so many things that Armenians, and in this case, things that we are using in our daily life, and the world will probably not be the same if we didn't have these people who were born and were able to make these inventions. And some of them that I would like to mention, for instance, Hovhannes Adamian in 1908 invented the color television. And imagine if if it wasn't him, we would be still watching black and white TV. George Simijian was the inventor of ATM machines, and we're using it every day throughout the world. These are things that, yes, are worldwide. Delta Fase, or the automatic transmission in our cars every day that we're driving, again, were invented by this Armenian man. The ice cream cone machine, or hair dryer, or the automatic wheelchair, and oxygen mask. And this one, see how nowadays with this pandemic, this COVID,
So important today.
yeah. So these are some that I wanted to share. And of course, there are more.
It's interesting how you had mentioned that, genius sprouted, especially after genocide. And we do see this also across the world that happens, where there's a survival ship where we want to leave a footprint. And so what a beautiful thing to be able to share and to have, children and adults have pride in these developments. So this is great stuff, Narine.
Myself found out a couple of new things that I had no idea. For instance, the inventor of MRI is Raymond Damadian. The creators of the first yogurt in the United States in 1929 was by Rose and Sarkis Colombosian. It was called Colombo
Wow.
yogurt. Ardicius Hyganian is the one who invented the different types of straws that were using it daily. And I would like to end it by saying that Christopher der Seropian produced the color of the US dollar back then in 1854.
Wow,
And
this is such great stuff, Narine.
yeah, and there are many more, but I just got some of these.
Yeah, these are just a few chosen ones. Thank you so much for sharing this. I feel like this was really important for us to discuss, to go over. I love the word diaspora, great vocabulary word to discuss with children, not just with Armenians, but different, ethnic groups throughout Latin America, throughout Europe that we see and influence and leave their footprint in society. And so let's celebrate Armenian culture and history and really be able to discuss it and love each other and learn to respect each other more and more.
Thank you so much, Tanya, for giving me the opportunity and for inviting me today to be the speaker.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to talk to you and to work with you, Narine. Thank you so much.
We'll talk soon.